Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday. That means it is time to pick a random object out of the Random Object Randomogrifier. I am recording. That means it's time to pick a random object out of the Random Object Randomogrifier and draw it once more. We do this every day at 5:30 where I pick a toy out of the toy box, a random object out of the random object. I'm just going to spritz these watercolors real quick. Make sure they're nice and moist. Make sure they're nice and juicy for later on when we're ready to use them. But we pick a toy out of the toy box, and we make sure that we can draw it, and we talk about it, and that's what we're going to do for the next 30 minutes. Good morning, Ivy, Mom, Dad, in the chat room. Let's see here. Today we have a 1950s era zombie, and I think I can do this one. Yeah, I think I can do this one upright. A 1950s era zombie. The zombie set had, I don't remember if it had 4 or 5 zombies in it, and there was a big heavy set one that we did a couple of weeks ago. There was a mostly devoured one that was rising up out of the grave that we did about 2 months ago. There's this one, and I'm pretty sure there's a blonde bombshell type zombie that's going to come up. So we have to, the struggle that I was going through last night was, what do we talk about? Because we've talked about, we've talked about where zombies come from. We've talked about what makes zombies tick, if you will. We've talked about movies and how zombies have changed throughout the movies. We've talked about all kinds of things about zombies. But then something struck me about this guy. This guy in particular, walking around in his leather jacket and his denim jeans and his boots. This guy is, he's the epitome of cool from the 50s, right? He's got the whole biker genre thing going on for him where he's super cool. And yet here he is, still a zombie and dead. And so I was looking at his clothes and I was like, in the 70s, when 50s, and the 50s era styles were starting to make comebacks. In the 70s, though, when this clothing was really cool, American Graffiti came out, Happy Days came out. What was the name of that series that Happy Days was based on? It wasn't American Graffiti. It was, they just shared a universe. It doesn't matter. All of that 50s stuff in the 70s. What's that drawing? Agent P in the platypus. That is. Did it show the drawing of the wolf with the beaver? My adopted granddaughter had that one ready for me yesterday too, so I thought I'd go ahead and show that one. She had a beaver being eaten by a wolf. I thought, and howling at the moon. I thought that was creepy and kind of in keeping with our zombie story. But the 70s were 20 years after the 50s, and there was a huge change in the way we dressed. There was a huge change in the attitudes of the people. There was a huge change. It was obvious, the Vaughns walking around in these leather jackets, and the Thunderbirds in Greece walking around in their leather jackets and denim, and there was a huge difference between that and the way people acted and dressed in the 70s. But if you were to do the same thing today, you'd be looking at 2005. And the question is have we changed so much since 2005 that if you saw somebody walking around in 2005 dress, you would recognize that they were outdated? And I don't think you would. I don't think there's been that much change since 2005. I think the styles, the technology, we have not had nearly as many advances since 2005 that they had between 1955 and 1975. I mean, you think about it, from 1955 to 1975, we went to the moon, supposedly. we we had the civil rights movement. We integrated our schools. There was a lot that happened, between 1955 and 1975. And there's just not that much. There just what hasn't been that much development. And makes you wonder why. What what changed? How come there hasn't been as much development? And I wonder if maybe it's because of the distractions that we created for ourselves. Uh, Television, keeping kids from practicing guitar, keeping young inventors from reading about stuff. Uh, the easily accessible entertainment. Nobody's bored anymore. Nobody's ever bored anymore. And if you are bored, it's your own fault because you have the whole world at your fingertips. And so I just wonder if maybe the advancements we made between 1955 and 1975 have stopped us from making any further advancements. Because if you saw somebody dressed in 2005 clothes, I mean, pretty much everything I have on today was around in 2005. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt, a t-shirt, a pair of khaki dad shorts. I have Crocs on. I don't know if Crocs were around in 2005. If anybody knows if Crocs were around in 2005, let me know. But this guy is obviously from the 50s. He's got his hair up in a pompadour, like the rest of the Romeos wore. I don't know if my dad ever wore a pompadour or not. My dad's more of a Beatles era guy with a mop top. My mom will tell me here in just a second when the lag catches up. Yeah. Claudia says her Crocs are over 20 years old. Claudia's in the chat saying, yeah, my Crocs are over 20 years old. So yeah, Crocs have been around. Crocs have been around for at least 20 years. So if you're wearing Crocs, you could have been wearing Crocs in 2025. All right. No pompadour. Mom says it was no pompadour for my dad. It's a shame. I could see my dad in a sharkskin jacket and pompadour. My dad would have been really cool. My dad was cool anyway. My dad is cool anyway, but it would have been super cool of him to be in a sharkskin jacket. Can't talk. Arting. My grandfather wore more grilled cream than any of us ever did. All right, let's see here. I think that's coming out. That's coming out pretty nice. We're about ready for some watercolors. I have to remember to do the paint drying today. I haven't done paint drying in a couple of days, and I know Ivy's been getting the withdrawals. She's here for the paint drying. So especially because Ivy's here, I have to make sure we dry the paint today. I love when the inking goes fast like that. When it's mostly an abstract character, it's easier to ink it quickly. It's more fun to ink it quickly. Ivy's all about that paint. All about that paint. Paint drying. We're gonna get a copyright violation, Ivy. We gotta be careful. Over on Ivy's channel, she posted a video about watching me and singing along, and she had that song playing. I'm all about that bass, about that bass. She had that song playing in the background, and she got a copyright violation. Said she couldn't be shown in Russia. We don't even think about being shown in Russia. I don't speak Russian. Claudia's all about the dance. I'm all about that dance, about that dance. Oh my goodness. Oh, poor mother. Good grief. When I was trying to figure out ways to talk about this little guy yesterday, I was looking at all different kinds of things like Samhain or Salvain, depending on whether you're a neo-pagan or paleo-pagan, and how people dressed up during that celebration to look like the dead so that the dead wouldn't take them back across the veil, compared to Dia de los Muertos in South America and Mexico, where people dress up like the dead so that the dead will feel welcome and come visit. To how we dress up like the dead because goth is cool. You got girls walking around in makeup that makes their eyes look dead, ripped black clothing and chains like they dug up out of the grave, but they're new, they're not dirty. And it's, again, we've been doing that though since the 90s. I remember girls in high school doing it back in the 80s. So, I mean, even that's not Even that's not a new development. Look at that. I just think that's cool looking. I may be alone in that, but I just think that's cool looking. All right, let's get this shadow back over here. And then we'll have to dry some paint. Dry some paint. You know, it's kind of like everything else we've done for the last couple of days. There's not a whole lot of color to this model. So it's not there's not a whole lot of paint drying to do. Thunder sketch. Hi, Thunder Sketch. It's still not a goat today. Going back through and putting in some of the form shadow so that it'll look round. If you don't put the form shadow in, it won't look round. Because you won't have the reflected light underneath it. All right, let me dry this real quick. It won't take much because it's a low humidity day. Woo-hoo! I know y'all got up just to watch me do that. I know some of you in particular set your alarms just so you can come watch the paint dry. All right. So let's see here. Let's start with these skin. Maybe a little burnt umber. And I'm going to throw in some yellow ochre just to dull it down a little bit. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. There we go. How are we doing on time? Oh, it's 5:49. We're way ahead of time. We're doing great. All right. Now, this is the tricky part because most everything he's wearing is black. And if I go too dark with that, it will completely hide all of the shadow work that we've already done. So I don't really want to go in with black. I want to go in with charcoal. Nice charcoal gray. I never wore a pompadour either. I did have a leather jacket though, but I was riding motorcycles, and I think my dad rode motorcycles. My dad rode a motorcycle too. Neither one of us were in a biker gang though, not to my knowledge. I mean, I might have been in the biker gang. It was the 80s. We were all doing weird stuff. I don't remember being in a biker gang. I didn't get his knees with the skin tone, if you didn't notice. So here in a second, I'll have to rinse the paint off my water brush. I do like the ease. If you've never used a water brush, it's really just a matter of squeezing the brush and getting the and letting the water push through the brush and then wiping the paint off. So it does make it a whole lot easier like this to clean your brush. But you go through a lot of water in the brush. And you end up having to fill your brush more frequently if you don't keep your colors in order. There we go. Now I'm going to dry that one more time so that we can ink it. You think I'd move that hair dryer and the switch down here where I didn't have to get up out of my chair to reach it and risk knocking everything over. Bye, Thunder Sketch. Subtle hint. I missed the subtle hint. All right, so now there's some details here that are missing that tell us that this is a zombie. Right? So what kind of details are we missing that tells us this is a zombie? I mean, aside from the fact that he's wearing 75-year-old and a 75-year-old style fashion. 70-year-old anyway. 70-year-old fashions. What I see on Facebook this morning, there's a whole group of us that believes the 80s was still 20 years ago, and you can't go around trying to convince us with logic of anything different. But no, the 50s were 70 years ago. So aside from the fact that his clothes, that his style of clothing is that age, how do you tell that this is a zombie? Is it the weird way he's carrying himself? Is it the dead eyes? Is it the scarred up? I mean, is it the appetite for brains? Obviously, but Because when you look around today, what is the difference between this guy and all these kids walking around looking at their cell phones? Ripped up jeans, black leather, chains. What is the difference between this guy's wrinkled clothing and dead eyes and the way teenagers present themselves as they're walking down the sidewalk looking at their phones? I like the comic where it was the zombie apocalypse outside, and he's got his shotgun out, and he's just blasting, but he couldn't figure out why they all had baskets of candy. Or the one where it turns out they were shooting a movie in his neighborhood, and the actors playing the zombies thought he was part of the movie, and so they didn't run. Because you can't tell the difference these days. Let's see here. It is the 20th of July, 2025. And I am me. So that is my version of this little zombie character today. Let's see here. There we go. I like that sketch. That's fun. What's going on in the chat? Oh yeah, you were talking about when I painted the fish the other day. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. Subtle hint. Oh hey, if you ever want to draw along, my adopted granddaughter and my other granddaughter, my granddaughter and my adopted granddaughter, Unique Chantiel Lafontaine, and Mac and Cheese Macaroon sent me some images here. Hang on just a minute. Let me figure out how to get all of this turned off and out of the way. There we go. I think that's off. Safely eject. If you ever want to play along, I put the images on my community page on YouTube, so you can go look at the image. That image that you see there next to this is posted on my community page, and so you can use that as a reference. So that was Unique Chantiel Lafontaine's drawing, and this is Mac and Cheese Macaroon's drawing. So if you want to play along, feel free to play along. I usually post them about 9 o'clock the night before. I usually try to post them about 9 o'clock the night before, and that way people can draw along with me. There's always a link. So there's a pinned comment at the top of the chat if you're watching live, and there is a link in the description of the video itself that takes you back to the community page where you can find these reference photos. So there is my version of the zombie from my perspective. You can see my perspective was just a little bit lower than the picture, but still pretty similar. So that's what I did today. I did not pull an egg for tomorrow, and my little girl is out of town, so I will have to manually pull an egg out of the randomogrifier Random Object Randomogrifier. Let us see then what she's going to be so upset that she didn't pull these eggs for me in advance. But let's just see what we have from the Random Object Randomogrifier for Monday. Hopefully. It's a seahorse. It's a seahorse. Hey, Daniel O'Brien. It's a seahorse. So we'll be doing a seahorse tomorrow morning. Monday, July 21st. So if you're watching this on Monday, July 21st, and it's before 5:30 in the morning, then you're watching the trailer, and we're about to start this. So stick around. We'll get right on it. For the rest of us, we just wrapped up doing the 50s era zombie. And so that is what I did on my easel. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. You look forward to this every day when I get to come down and get to art with my besties. It keeps me accountable to my art practice. Today is a special day because it's Sunday, and that means that it's time to this is the day of the week that I get to walk and go get my apple fritters. I'm excited about that. So you guys be sure and join me tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. And then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing. I know that Claudia is not going to say that she sees me dancing because she likes to watch me dance. I feel like Claudia would probably give me dollars if I were in her presence. But we dance until somebody says